G'day, g'day, wherever you may be in this wonderful, beautiful world of ours. This is Mastering Music, Mastering Life. I'm Tony Jack the Bear Mance, and I'm here at Deluxe Mastering in Melbourne, Australia. And before we start off, I must thank my sponsor. As you can see, representing Amiga MMA Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Down Street in Collingwood, George Soteropoulos, former UFC fighter, badass, wonderful teacher, great guy. You couldn't find a better coach, whether you are a beginner, whether you're a kid, an intermediate person, or whether you want to go all the way and fight at the highest level. George is your man. It's a great friendly club. I train down there. I'm one of the old cats. So even at 57, nearly 58 years of age, there's no excuse not to get in there, get fit, and do something a little bit different with a bunch of very cool, humble, level-headed cats. So Amiga, MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Down Street, Collingwood. We hope to see you down there. If you do, let them know I sent you, and George will look after you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so delighted to have on my podcast today a gentleman who I hold in the highest regard, personally, professionally. He's probably, in my opinion, Australia's greatest DJ export. We've been wanting to have this conversation for a long period of time, but we finally got here, and I'm so delighted to be able, and I'm so privileged to be able to have Mr. Anthony Pappa on Mastering Music, Mastering Life, my friend, my brother. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Tony. It's great to be finally on your show. Yeah.
We got here, mate. We finally got here.
Mate, we did.
Mind you, you haven't broken the record. The record so far for the longest guest was Chris Athens, master engineer. He used to work at Sterling Sound and now is in Austin. That was about 2 years. So that's that's the record so far. But the main things we got here. So good to have it, mate. First of all, can I say you're looking well? You got a glow on your face. You're looking happy. You recently. So congratulations, you recently got engaged as well to Louise, and I think there's something to be said in having real love in your life and having a beautiful life partner who unconditionally loves and supports you through what you do, huh?
Yeah, totally. Look, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been in my life. Things are great. Life's good. You know, it went through a few ups and downs to get here, but I'm here, and that's the main thing. And I feel really well. I'm happy with everything I'm doing. I've got a beautiful, loving family. I'm loving myself more than ever. Things are good. And I think just for yourself, once you've got all that going on in your personal life and you're just in a good place, good space, it reflects and trajects everywhere and beams off you. Like you said, I'm glowing. It's just how I feel at the moment. It's life's good.
Yeah, it's very evident and very clear. And even when I saw you just after Christmas last year, I think we had lunch together.
Yeah.
The energy was palpable, and
thank you, mate.
I couldn't have been happier for you. So, mate, I'm just thinking back to the first time I met you as a youngster, and
when I was a kid.
When you were a kid, I don't even think you had a license. I don't even think you had a license at the time.
No, I was a kid.
Yeah, I remember a young Anthony Pappa being introduced to me by our wonderful late friend Phil K. Rest in peace. Yep. And he said, "Mate, I got this kid you got to meet. He's mad. He's the most incredible mixing, DJ. He's just he mixes on 3 turntables. He does 3 turntables. Now I think, you know what, when I come back to this, Anthony, in fact, I reckon you were the first guy that I knew of and actually witnessed mixing on 3 turntables before Carl Cox. Now I know, but I think as far as me witnessing it for myself. Okay.
Right, okay. I was going to say, I wouldn't say before Carl Cox. I mean, Carl Cox has been DJing as long, if not longer than me, and was known for a 3-deck mixing right from the get-go. But maybe in your own backyard, sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I remember you, we recorded, we wanted to record something, and you came and you did a mix. It was, as I remember, there was a track by the Shaman. I forget which track.
No. Let me correct you.
Correct me.
The Stereo Seas. The track was called Connected. It was the left field dub, and I had an a cappella of
Colonel Abrahams. Yep.
Correct. And part of me as a DJ and the secret to my success of being able to mix so well is my ability to key music and key mix tracks together so that they harmonically mix and fit well together when mixed. That was a mix that I did to Phil one time. We would play music in my father's warehouse because it was the only place we could make a lot of noise without pissing the neighbours off.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, I said, check this out, man. And I put the vocal over it. He goes, that's mad. We got to record this. I'm like, how? He goes, I've got to take you to meet this guy. I'm like, okay, cool. So he picks me up, and that's how we met. And the guy was Tony Mans. And as you were saying earlier, that's the first time we met. So, yeah.
Yeah, and did that recording.
Can you remember what year it was? It was
1995.
I reckon it was earlier. I left Australia in 95.
Okay, there would have been 93 or 94.
Right, okay.
It would have been, I was just maybe early married, and I probably would have had, I had a kid, yeah. All right. Yeah. You're probably right. 90, yeah. No.
Yeah, in fact, good.
Now, you know what? I remember your last gig as well. I remember, like, one thing people don't know, that Anthony at the time back in the day was, you were probably the most talented of all the DJs going around. And for whatever reason, Anthony could not get arrested in this town. He got gigs, but nothing. He wasn't getting the really big gigs. And I think that there was, and again, no disrespect at the time to people, I think there was this bit of envy going on. And I think people just not wanting to be shown up. And I remember your last gig was at Delirium at Chasers.
Yep, correct.
And I thought that would have been a much bigger send-off for you. But anyway, so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Pappa went overseas as a young kid, and he basically took over the world. He, no sooner that you arrived there, you got in with guys like Dave Seaman and John Digweed. You got to play at, all the big clubs. So tell us about England. What was it like when you arrived, and how did you get into and getting the respect of the upper echelon of the UK dance scene?
Basically, I left Australia left Melbourne in May 1995. But prior to that, as you said, I was playing all over Melbourne, Australia. And I did start getting some of the better gigs towards the end of the period before I left, which was how I met some of these guys like your John Sashas and Dave Seaman. When they'd come over to play Australia, the tours, I'd end up playing alongside a lot of them and kind of struck up a friendship on a personal level with them as well as a musical level. And we kept in touch, and I always thought, I want to do what these guys do, but I kind of need to go there to do it, because at the time, Melbourne has always had a great club scene, but I knew what I wanted. I wanted more. I knew my influence was more the international circuit. Maybe in the day when I was playing in Melbourne, it was a bit ahead of the time for here, which was fine because I believed in it. I knew it was right. I knew it was the forward way thinking, which is how I still am today. You always got to keep thinking forwards. How can I be? What's fresh? What's new? What's better? Where's music at? Where are we going to take it? So I moved over to the UK, and it was great knowing these guys. But at the same time, I was a kid with a suitcase and 2 boxes of records, going from a name in a country where I'm known to a country where there's a lot of DJs, a lot of people, and pretty much starting from scratch again. So that was a bit of a test. It kind of challenged me. Almost basically I just took all my savings and went for it, went over there, and almost strained me to the point where I was like, this has to start working soon, because otherwise I'm going to have to go home. I can't live off nothing. And I stuck with it. I knew it's what I wanted. And when you want something that bad and you're prepared to leave your family and your friends and move to the other side of the world, you find a way, because if you really want it and you've made that commitment to go, you're going for it. And it takes something to have that drive and to do that in the first place, which I certainly did. So it started picking up, and started playing all over the UK, started making music, had a couple of big records. The first real big one was under the name Freefall, a track called Skydive, which was a #1 record. As the DJ culture in the UK became more of a global scene, and I was kind of in the melting pot, working at DMC, Mixmag, Stress Records, producing, DJing, working for Renaissance, it kind of was the natural progression for me to follow the other guys, which was starting to get gigs and tour around the world, which I started doing. It got to the point where, I was doing like 200 flights a year, just going to gigs. My schedule was crazy. It was like 3 or 4 countries in a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, back to the UK, 3 or 4 days before you know it, you're off again. It's like, it was full on, So I did that for 20 years. I was over in the UK.
How did you deal with the jet lag, Anthony?
You know, when you're that hectically busy with a schedule like that, you don't really get jet lag, if that makes sense, because you don't really have time to settle into each place. You're literally in and out, and, you know, you get there, you rest. If you've had a long flight, you rest before the gig, you play. You know, depending on your set time and your next destination, you might have a late set and then have to go to the airport early in the morning and travel all day. You get used to napping, sleeping on planes, in cars, and you just do what you got to do to get it done. And you know, when you get home, you have a good rest, and you don't really get jet lag because you're just constantly on all over the shop, whatever. Yeah. But my best advice to that is just rest when you're tired and rest when you can. And when you get the opportunities, take it, because you're going to need it. So, yeah, I was in the UK from 95 to 2014, and then thought I actually wasn't playing in the UK as much as I was when I first moved over there. I was, as I said, catching a lot of planes, and figured I don't need to be in the UK anymore. If I'm flying from the UK to wherever, I can fly from here, Australia, to wherever. The downside is obviously we're a lot further than everywhere, and it's not so easy. But I just thought, you know, I don't need to be playing every week, killing myself. You know, I've done a lot of gigs. I still love what I do, but I need to balance my life a bit more. And now it's more like I come back to Australia, I live here, and I go on tours for a month, and I'll do whatever gigs, it's full on, and then I come home and it's family time, studio time, local gigs, which is more manageable. And that seems to be working pretty well for me.
Yeah, tell me, in your memory, what was probably the gig over there that made you realise that, okay, I'm now going somewhere with this. Now we're on a train that's not coming back.
I don't know if it was one gig specifically, but just a momentum of things all kind of connecting. I think when I did my Global Underground New Breed album, which was late 99, it got released in 2000. That was a big game changer. Starting to see my picture on big billboards in train stations and stuff. I was like, this is a bit full on. But yeah, look, working with good brands like Renaissance and the Ministry of Sound, having a residency at Renaissance, which is one of the biggest clubs in the UK, having a residency at Twilo in New York, which was one of the best clubs in America.
Yeah, Danny Tenaglia.
Yeah, you know, a lot of big guys were there. Having a residency at Womb in Tokyo, one of the best clubs in Asia. So I just seem to be doing all the right things at all the right places at the right time. And, you know, it kind of, you know, and obviously you've got to do what you do and perform well. And that kind of formula just seems to, it's going to work.
So when you went over there, Anthony, did you, like, obviously you had some relationships with the big boys who had come out here. So you just started off just doing warm-up gigs for these guys?
Yeah, well, at first it was just getting a job at the record label Stress Records, which Dave Seaman was very nice to help me get my foot in the door there. And then I sent a mixtape to Renaissance, which they liked, and they signed me. And then, as you're saying, it was warm-up slots, kind of earning your stripes and proving over there. Starting again, but not really starting again, because you've got all your – I've been already playing for 7 or 8 years. So I'd done my apprenticeship, well and truly done that in Australia, but kind of building my name in the UK and re-establishing myself on that side of the world, and just kind of moving up bit by bit.
I think DJs undervalue the importance of a warm-up set and that you. Even though you're starting out, I mean, a lot of young kids want the closing set. They want to play the bangers. They want to get the crowd going. And that's understandable. They want to be top billing and whatnot. But I think a lot of young kids don't realise that how important that warm-up set is, and that you actually can make or break a night. If you don't set it up nicely for the other guys, and you're going to win a lot more favours if you kind of play it right and do the right thing by the other guys. Yeah, be a team player for the night, you know, because you're there to set it up. That's it. And if you set it up nice and you set the foundation, then it kind of goes well from there. And people remember that. They do remember that.
I have to agree. And I think I'd say the warm-up set or the early set is the most important set of the night. It really does set the tone. And DJs need to work together, not all trying to clash and all play their top 10 favorite tracks and playing the same tracks and banging it out. You know, it's all about the flow of the first guy to the next guy and playing the right music for the right time of the night. So it just continually builds, and that's how you create a vibe. That's how you create an atmosphere. And if that's done properly, you can pretty much go anywhere rather than everyone just going bang, 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 you know. So, yeah definitely. Yeah. And there's an art to that, which a lot of people seem to not really know because they probably haven't had the experience to do it properly, you know. And it's easier to get carried away and pull out big tunes. It's harder to hold back and keep it working, but pull it back and keep it slow. There's an art form to that. So, yeah, I respect all the guys that do that well.
Well, I remember even Phil, our friend, he used to actually tell me, as an established DJ who travelled and played big parties, he used to actually enjoy doing warm-up sets. He really did. He genuinely enjoyed doing them, and he was the guy that actually told me about, you know, you can't underestimate it and the importance of doing it right and doing it well. And I think he felt for him it was just a way of grounding himself and humbling himself, and you know, just going back to his roots again. Like, this is where I began. This is how I started, and again, just going back to doing that well, and then so.
Yeah.
So tell me about production, man. How did obviously there was a time when being a DJ in itself wasn't enough. Obviously having a record with your name on it was good and big to get yourself a gig back in the day. And then the natural progression was production. Yeah. So how did you evolve into production, and tell us about Free Fall and how that all began? And
for me, it was through working at Stress Records, which was also DMC. They had studios within the building, like in-house studios. So they paired me up with a guy called Alan Bremner, who was an engineer for Brothers in Rhythm and an engineer at Southwest in London. And we started working together. Kind of none of us really had experience, but it was like, okay, we're going to learn. You know, I played him records. These are good tunes, and he kind of was learning his way around the studio. And we kind of just started making tunes. We made one track called Shrug. Then the second track we made was Skydive, and it took us a couple of months to make, but it was a big one. But that's because we're just perfectionists, and it just took so long to perfect every sound. And making music back then was a lot more analog and hands-on with the gear, rather than you just push a button and it happens in an app or
automation and digital technology and all that we have today.
And I'm glad we learnt the old school way, because you really got to learn how things are created and made the way they used to be done. And now you, like you say, you want something reversed, you push a button and it's done. You know, it's good to know the mechanical side of how something works to make you understand it more. I think that gives you a better knowledge of what you're achieving, knowing how it was created. You know, a better understanding of what you're doing. So we made a lot of original material. We did a lot of remixes. Then after that, I went to work on with a guy called Barry Gilby. We made music under the name Pappa and Gilby. Again, lots of original material and remixes. And more recently, now that I'm back in Melbourne, I've started working with Jamie Stevens, as you know, amazing, talented producer in his own right. And I'm just so happy to be working with him. And we've done a couple of things, and I'll touch on that maybe in a bit. Yep. Yeah.
Beautiful. So tell us about the this is going to be a hard one to answer, but I'm going to try and see if I can get one out of you. To date, Anthony, give me 2 or 3 of the most memorable gigs that you've done to date, moments that will remain with you.
Look, let me try to think. Love Parade, playing to 500,000 people. That's pretty impressive. Any club in Ibiza, I've done all, like Pasha, Space, Privilege. They're all amazing. There's a few good clubs in Buenos Aires in Argentina. Amazing atmospheres, and for a DJ to play to a crowd like that, incredible. Those 3 versions of those 3 would probably be the ones that stand out the most. Yeah.
What do you think were the differences between the audiences in the UK or Europe, South America, and Australia?
Look, I just think that they're probably more educated. They've been into for me what I consider the right kind of music for the sound that I play. That's one. Two, there's a hell of a lot more of them. There's more population, so more people at parties, more atmosphere, more vibe. And, in parts of the world where people party differently and a lot more than other parts, that has an influence to the vibe on the night. So all of that taken into consideration, that's what makes it different to Australia. And I love the gigs in Australia, but it's so different to Ibiza or Europe or North America.
I think it's probably something to be said also in the fact that you're talking about cultures that are centuries old. Like Australia as a culture is fairly new, and so over there they've had more exposure over generations to art, music.
Sure.
That sort of thing. So it's more permeated in the culture and different appreciation and different value, the way they value it over there. Tell me, who are your I'm curious to know, mate, who were some of the most influential people in your life, business-wise, personal-wise, who have shaped you and have given you, those people that probably gave you the best advice that you carry through?
The first DJ that kind of got me on the right path and thinking about how things are done is Phil Kay. I went and saw, I was 13 or 14 at the time. He was playing at a mobile disco, and I was more interested in the DJ and the music than meeting girls and doing what teenagers would do at that age. And so I was just watching him, and I was looking at his records, and he had these stickers on his records. I said, what's that? I was really curious. And he said, well, this is called keys. That's the key of the track. I'm like, why have you got that on your record? I had no idea. And he's like, well, look here, what I'll do is, here's my number, call me and we'll catch up. This is the kind of guy that Phil was. He had time for people and to explain and to teach and to pass on what he knew, because he knew what he knew was something special and advanced to what the average DJ was doing and what they know. Yeah. And, he obviously could see that I was very enthusiastic and what really wanted to know, and it was kind of hunger for the thirst of the knowledge. So he put me on to that. And that's kind of correct. That learning about keys and what Phil showed me and what I learned because of what he showed me was pretty much, I could say the success of my whole career was based on knowing that knowledge right from the start.
Wow.
Because it was huge. It made you sound better than everyone else. You still had to mix well, but it means you could create things and put things together that sound special.
Absolutely.
And,
but you're also you and Phil also real great experimenters, because again, at the time, not many, as I remember DJing back then, it was people were focusing more on being able to program a good set, obviously mix records well, and particularly if they could mix them for long periods of time and do them seamlessly. Yeah. But you and Phil were guys who wanted the next level, which is like with the acapellas, which was with samples, which was with creating loops through that DJ CD effects box, utilizing technology in ways that most people really didn't do a lot of focus on, because they were too fixed on just keeping the fundamentals, which is great.
Yeah, sure. But I think that's what separates certain people and makes the people that push the boundaries, the innovators, the people that are taking that next step or taking it somewhere, taking risks, trying things, learning, failing, figuring it out and making it work. They're the ones that become the people that people want to aspire to, because they're doing something special, they're doing something different. And, once you know how to do it and do it well, you start raising the bar and setting the new benchmark. And it's like, okay, this is what we need to do. And we've always done that, saying me, Phil, people, the guys I was hanging around back then, the guys that I was looking up to that inspired me, Dick Reed, Sasha, Dave Seaman, they just seemed to have something special. And it was the music, the way they put it together, and it was inspiring. So when I heard people like that, for me, it was like, okay, you need to be this good, or at least this good, if not better. So I always aimed high, and that was what I strived to achieve, and that's what made me me.
Well, the one thing I remember going back then, you Phil, Gab, Oliver, and Aussie LA were all pushing each other and all trying to get the best out of each other, and it was very competitive, but it was still friendly, and
because we're all mates.
Yeah, and it was really good to see, because I've seen situations of people that started out together as mates, and then over time somebody did very well for themselves, and then a bit of envy crept in, and things kind of just went off the rails. But the one thing I noticed with you guys, as you were coming up, I mean, put it this way, I remember, mate, when as success as we were getting word back and reading about your success, everyone felt like it was theirs as well, if you know what I mean. And everyone was so happy and delighted for you, because, you were carrying a flag, like we were, like it was a team thing. And I always admired that. And I think it's important that, all of us, we surround ourselves with good peers, people that will hold us to account, people that will push us in the right way, people that will pull us up when we need to be pulled up on our bullshit or whatever. But people that also that genuinely invested in your success and your well-being. I mean, I have this saying, and I believe in this heart and soul, mate, that your success is mine. So anything I can do to help you. So for example, as a mastering engineer, where I'm allowed to and I have a clearance to, I will show people stuff. So, hey, listen, I want to play, after I've had the clearance and the green light, because as far as I'm concerned, my job doesn't end when I just take the money on the job. It's like, if I can help, you never know, make it somewhere, it goes off and makes them successful. Well, you run the coattails of that, what I mean? So why wouldn't you want to invest and help and get involved in other people's happiness and success, when
I think the important thing for what you're saying is having a good support crew around you, having good friends, carefully selecting the people that are what you call your inner circle. Like you say, the guys are going to say, hey, mate, listen, that's shit, or you're stuffed up there. And they can be honest enough to your face, because they're your mate, to say, listen, and tell you straight. You need that when you're doing what you're doing at that level, because otherwise it's all people sucking up your ass and kissing your ass and, hey, man, this is really good, this is really good. And it might be, but it also might not be good. And only your true good friends or your people that know you well and have got the courage and balls to tell you one-to-one, because they love you, they care about you as much as what you're doing. It means something to them. They want to see you do well. And like you said, sometimes you need a mate to pull you up or for whatever, say, hey, that doesn't sound as good as what you think it is, or whatever the situation is. So I've always had, your Phil Gabs, Aussies, we've always had that friendship to support each other. Didn't really matter what we were all doing in our own way with our own gigs, but as friends, you have that level of respect.
Yeah.
And that's important.
I'll tell you one thing that's always fascinated me, Anthony, and I guess you'd be able to give me some insight, because I'm only just going on perception here. And that is, I can't imagine what it's like to be a DJ at that echelon where, you are an international guy, you're jet setting, you're playing big parties, and then comes down to, who are the people in your work, who are the people in your circle, and I know that you hear stories about dodgy management and dodgy people and stuff. And it just makes me wonder sometimes, how would you know, like, who really has your back? Because I imagine so many people will surround you, want your attention. Someone's got a deal, someone's got an offer, someone's got this, someone's got that, and everyone wants something, And so, the skill to be able to differentiate between what's real and what isn't, it's got to be such a head fuck.
Well, I think it's easy to get caught up in all that and to get confused and swept away with the moment of a situation. But for me, the people that are my real friends have been my real friends before I was who I am as a DJ. They like me for me as a person, whether it be guys I went to school with and long-time friends like yourself that we've known for 30 plus years. It's not about what you became or what you did or who you are. It's about you and what you are as a person to them. And having that level of a friendship and trust with someone who just is, it's just real, like a real deal mate, not a bullshit mate. That's what you need to surround yourself with. And it's hard sometimes with, when things get escalated, you're high flying and it's a big night, and like you said, everyone wants a piece of you, or they want to hang with you or they want to be in your spotlight. And it's like, you in time you learn you kind of start to see it more with experience, and you know who your real friends are, and at the end of the day you're going to leave that gig and go somewhere else, and you might not even remember who that person was again. So you got to just be professional, and you're there to do a job. And yeah, they all want to hang with you, but you've got to focus on what you're there to do, and keep the focus on that and the job and the dance hall, the people. Let some in, because you want to be approachable, but not to the point where that starts to interrupt the main reason why you went there in the first place. So just having a good head on your shoulders, good judgment, and being professional, really.
Yeah, and management. I think I think there's a lot to be said about. I mean, we've seen management be the downfall of people as well. But again, a good manager who really has your interest at heart and who can be that gatekeeper, because. Yeah, again, with so much demand on people, you can understand why there's got to be that level of gatekeeper around you. And I think that's where a good manager can come into play as well.
And I think that's where some of the mental health issues start coming from. Like, especially for me, I've been DJing 34 years. And as I've built my name up as a DJ and started to travel and do the gigs, it wasn't something that happened overnight. It took years and years. And as I started to build with the routine and schedule, I got used to the level of work and demand. Like, for example, Avicii, a kid having an overnight hit, becoming a huge sensation, 18, 19, 20, however old they are, making a track from their bedroom, all of a sudden, global stars playing at the biggest festivals in the world, not being prepared for that situation, not having the experience, and managers just, hey, I've got you 15 shows this month, you're here, there, and everywhere, and just throwing the kid into the deep end because it's big bucks, it's big events, it's great, and it's like the person, the artist can't cope. They don't have that experience how to deal with it, and there's been a few tragic losses to people. Yes. It just got too much, and that's kind of sad, really. And I think a lot of that came down to management.
Yeah.
People protecting the person,
Yeah, people looking at, I think as time has gone on, having a long career, probably harder and harder because there's a high turnover of people.
Sure.
One thing, I'm interested to know this, get your view on this, which is, okay, without wanting to sound like an old timer, this old cranky old bastard here, there was a time I remember when, you would get 2 or 3 hours to play a set, whether you're warming up. Now, for years now, we've had this phenomenon of now people coming in and, 8 or 9 DJs in a night playing an hour.
Yeah.
I never could get my head around playing an hour set. I just feel like, I'm not a DJ, but I just feel like if I was DJing for fun, I would need an hour just to sort of get lubed up and warmed up, getting into the flow of things. You know what I mean?
An hour is 10 tracks.
So what's brought that on? Is it just because there's so many people and they're trying to fit everyone in, or like
what's brought on is competition, promoters needing more names on flyers. Hey, instead of booking 1 or 2 guys and giving them 4 hours or 5 hours each, or 3 guys, we need 10 names because that's what looks good on the flyer. The more people we have, the more people will come, the more people they'll all bring their friends. And, it's bullshit. It really is. I mean, a 1 hour set is 10 tracks. How can you play properly with 10 tracks? You've got to choose 10 tracks. How can you even get settled and create the story, the journey in that time? And even for the listener or the person dancing, they're not going to really get the best of that person either because they're just getting a bit, and it's all, no one really gets going properly. So, yeah, it's crap. But I'm fortunate enough to still be able to getting 3 or 4 hour sets.
What's your favourite length? What's the ideal length for you? I mean, where you feel most comfortable?
2 hours is my ideal minimum.
Yep.
3 is comfortable. 4, I can really, start to tell a longer story, and I've got more time to get more creative and go into more different areas. 3 to 4 hours will give you enough time to express yourself more as an artist and a DJ.
Have you done many sort of, your Danny Tenaglia, Junior Vasquez, Carl Cox, 9, 10, 12 hour sets in your life? Have you had any of those?
When I was playing at WOOM in Tokyo, my residency, I'd actually do the whole night. I played 8 hours from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Wow.
And I'd start with house and I'd play my warm-up for a couple of hours. Then I'd go to tech house, progressive house, techno. And by the end, I'd even get it to the point where I could play drum and bass the last hour.
Wow.
Because I set it up myself, knowing where I was coming from, where I wanted to go, and I just made it all work. I haven't done a lot of those kind of gigs because they're not easy to do. And you're very fortunate to be given a whole night to yourself to be able to do that. But yeah, I've done sets like that. It's a bit special, yeah.
What do you think about technology, Anthony? I mean, some people poo-poo the idea of the mix button and what have you, but how have you made technology work for you?
Look, the technology is great. We need to embrace it because otherwise we're going to be going backwards in the dinosaur ages, and that's not who we are. The music moves forward, the technology moves forward. So you need to be able to embrace where we're at, where we're at in these times. I have the latest technology. But, look, there is now a button that you can press that beat matches the tracks. But still, it won't choose the tracks for you. It won't say that track goes with that. It won't program it. That art form is still new.
Yeah.
And that's the bit with the new technology, I think, where, yes, they can keep music in time as well as you, but can they program a set and play as well as you? That's what the machines will never do.
Yeah, knowing what to play, knowing when to pull it, when to come in, when to come out, but also I think when to, in the case of in a club and an audience, to read a crowd and to be able to anticipate where to take them, and how long to keep them there.
Yeah, so that's still DJing. That's the real part of the DJing now. It's not really about the mixing because, like you said, the machines can do that for you, but it's how you do it and the way you do it. So that's one area where I feel like I've always done really well.
Mm-hmm. Hey, tell me, mate, how supportive was your dad or your family? Because most kids who are growing up, and today I mentor a lot of kids, and there's not much parental support for kids who aspire towards an artistic, creative endeavor, especially in the music industry. Yeah. How did you find it as a youngster? Did you have support, much support?
I owe a lot to my parents. My dad is a musician. He plays the keyboards, played in a rock and roll band. I played the drums from the age of 4. I used to rehearse with his band, having a bash. Yeah. So having a father that was into music and kind of who got it, when I say got the musician side of it, didn't get DJing. How does it work? You play other people's records. It was more about playing music than playing real music on an instrument than playing a record. That took years to kind of get him to understand that. But the kind of having the support of a father as a musician and a loving mother who helped me by letting me wash cars on a Sunday so I could save up to buy my first turntables and driving me to gigs when I was too young to drive because I started at 13 and he dropped me off in the van, helped me set up and play, come back and pick me up at 1 a.m. or midnight, pack all the gear up. I mean, what that's father of the year stuff.
Totally.
Year after year, so grateful for that. So, it could have been different without the right support and parents, but I'm very grateful for what they allowed me to do and the help that they gave me to be able to do it.
Yeah. So, mate, a few years ago, you had the misfortune of getting into a car accident, which wasn't your fault, but you got, and that set you back. Tell us, if you don't mind talking about that, because you coming back from that accident and that injury was extraordinary. So, do you want to just briefly touch on that? What happened? What happened that night?
First of all, I'm very grateful and lucky to be alive. I mean, I had an accident on Mother's Day in 2016. I was actually on my way to meet my mum for lunch, and it was a wet day. I had a coughing fit. I lost control of my car, and the car veered onto the other side of the road and hit another car head on. And I honestly thought, this is it, I'm gone, in those couple of seconds of bracing myself for the worst. And I broke both my legs, I broke my arm, I broke my back. Lucky to survive. I was in a wheelchair for 5 months in hospital. I had to do 2 years of physio to learn how to walk again. Like everything, my life stopped. I was broken, proper broken. And it took me a couple of years just to rebuild me, and we're talking back to basics, learning how to walk and just focusing on mobility and getting well. And it was the hardest thing to do, but probably the best thing that happened to me at the same time, because as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I came through it. I worked really hard. I appreciated the life I had, but it made me appreciate things even more, as you can imagine, having that kind of an experience.
Yeah.
And I knew that music's my love. This is what I want to do. I need to get back to doing what I want to do. But at the time, I just had to focus on me. And I think just having that time working on me as a person and rebuilding myself, everything else, once I did that and started to restart the relaunch of getting me back to what I want to do now, everything kind of fell into place. I was more focused than ever, working twice as hard, 3 times, because I had to, you're out of the game for that period of time. And the music business is so quick that you can be here today, gone tomorrow. So to have that gap where people are thinking, well, he's just disappeared, your name's not on any flyers.
And people have short memories, yeah.
Yeah, and you're gone. So, and at one point I even thought, hey, do I even really want this again? And I think it's just as I got better physically and mentally stronger myself, it just made me want it even more. And then that was, say, 2018, I started rebuilding, doing a couple of gigs and getting back into the tunes. And I've kind of been on a one-way express mission since then, And yes, and now we go into 2020 was going to be the year where I started to tour the world and everything had been set up in 2018, 2019 to get to that stage where, okay, we're ready to go back out there.
Yep.
And then we get COVID. COVID hits and stops everyone. The whole world stops. But me, I was like, I'm still going forward. This is meant to happen. So I just took that focus and positive energy and what can I do? Well, I went down the live stream route and started doing that. Started playing to more people from home, from my lounge room than what I've probably ever played to in my whole career. Like I'm having hundreds of thousands of people watch me. And
there was one particular stream, wasn't there? There was one particular stream that was just...
There's a couple that have gone over 1 million. Yeah, there's one that's hit 1.5 million, and another one's 1.2 million, and it's like, it's crazy.
Isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Mate. Yeah, I mean, you have. I guess you had more of a captive audience too, but nonetheless, still to get 1.2, 1.5 million.
That's 10 or 12 MCGs full of people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's huge exposure. So as COVID happens and we enter this new way of the world, DJs start becoming streamers and we learn about videos and all these live streams and podcasts. And so it's been good the last year or so to learn a lot about that and do what we can from home because that's all we can do. And I think that's worked for me really, really well, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that really impressed me, mate, was we were having a conversation one day and I rang you and at the end of the conversation said, mate, I need to tell you something. And it was just me giving you props for the fact that, just how hard you worked and how inspired I was by what you were doing. When in reality, you've done everything. I mean, you've played at every festival you could want. I mean, there's probably nowhere that you haven't not played. And as far as a bucket list is concerned,
I agree.
No DJs you haven't played alongside and you haven't got to hang out with. I mean, in terms of hitting the top of the mountain where you could sit back and go, okay, I've done all this now. I've got no point to prove.
Yeah.
And yet, regardless, I was just so impressed by the fact that even though that was the case, you just said, well, I've got no point to prove, mate, but I love it so much that I just want to get in there and just do it because it's my love. It's my love. It's my passion.
You're right. And I think the biggest point to prove, even though I've got no point to prove, was just to myself to get myself back to where I was from the accident, that drive. I feel like I've relaunched my career. I feel like I'm an 18-year-old getting his first gig in a club with 34 years of experience and knowledge behind it, but just as excited and keen as a kid, even more so, So I'm loving this energy and this focus. And as you said at the start, I'm happy in my personal life. So this is all, it's just coming together.
you touched on a good point where you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, you said, I'm loving myself, right? Yeah. And that's something that we don't really talk about because, I don't know, especially men, maybe they feel a bit uncomfortable, it feels a bit weird, whatever. But it's interesting that you would point that out. And that's been a great life lesson for me is so many of us, we're our own worst enemy. We most of us have this thing of we're not good enough. We're not ever going to make it. We've been conditioned a certain way. And yet I'm a true believer, Anthony, that until you yourself learn to pick yourself up, until you yourself learn to be your own cheer squad, until you yourself learn to kind of be good within your own skin and just be okay with all of you, the good, the bad, the whole bit, not be so self-critical, not be so such judgmental, not to be so much in comparing yourself to other people, just getting in your lane, running your own race and doing better than you did the day before.
Correct.
And I know, you probably, maybe that was something that you got to work through after the accident with all, as you said, the work you've done. I know through my drug journey, that was a big part of, learning to let that behind and move forward. So I think it's a great message that kids need to hear, man, that, again, if they don't want to use the term loving themselves, maybe it's just being comfortable in your own skin and being okay with, and not letting your past dictate what's going to be the future for you,
Correct. Yeah. And just, being the best version of yourself, doing the best. All you can do is you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do, what you put out there. So focus on you, be the best version of yourself. And as they say, it's an old saying, but you only get out what you put in. So if you're prepared to do the work and you're doing all the right things, it'll happen.
Most definitely.
Believe in yourself as well.
Yeah.
Have that self-belief.
Yeah. And one thing I'd like to tell the kids, and that is, of course, I'd like to think that people would like me and validate me and think I'm a good guy or talented or what have you. But that's not the case. You're never going to be everyone's friend 100% of the time. And I've got to a point where I can genuinely tell you, hand on heart, mate, that as much as I like to think people think well of me, I care less about that. What I'm concerned more with is I hope that I don't give people a justified reason to say bad things about me. Sure. If you don't like what I do, or you don't like my style, or you just have a aversion, that's your right. But so long as no one can go around and say, well, I've actually got a good. Tony is this, and here's why. And here's here's the evidence to support that claim. So I think that's the thing that we need to work on. You just got to, you pick and choose the people that either support you or don't. And if they don't want to, that's okay. But like you said, you focus on the stuff that's important to you, because you can't control what other people do or what they think or what they say. Yeah. And you get to the point where, we're not kids. I'm 47. You're a bit older than me. 57. You've been there, you've done it, you've seen and heard all the bullshit. You're over it. It's like, hey guys, if this isn't for you, fine. See you later. I don't care. This is what I'm doing. You know what? I'm not one for regrets and wish, but I will say I wish I was where you were at 47, mate. I'm the grand poobah of the late bloomers society. But anyway, I'm glad to be where I am, albeit I still have work to do.
I started young, so that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, most. Can we just talk a little bit about Phil?
Sure.
Just, we've I think first of all, I'm still. I've accepted it. It's it's sunk in for me that he's gone, but I feel that he's still left a gaping hole. He's left such a massive hole within our, your friendship group, my friendship group, within ourselves. Is his lack of physical presence has really it's still impacting on me. And
I would have to say exactly the same. Yeah, same for me.
And I'm just so grateful that we have the legacy of his work and all the mix CDs he's done and the records he's released. And I'm really happy that I remember when he passed, people were, or as he was, just in his final days, there was lots of beautiful tributes to him and testimonials and stuff. And I'm just really glad that I had the opportunity to to have 3 conversations that we recorded. And you know what it feels like. You know, every time I said to him, "Come on, mate," and he said, What am I going to say? Mate, why, mate? Yeah.
And then before you know it, you can't shut him up.
Yeah, exactly. And it happened every time. And I'm just so. I mean, I only got to watch him once around that time, but I'm just so glad that we had that conversation, particularly the last one when he was sick and he was telling us about his journey, but the previous one where it was Phil in full flight. You know, you got to see Phil, his cheeky side, his passionate side, his irreverent side. It was Phil. It was 100% unadulterated Phil. It's that we knew and loved. You know, and you know, and I'm glad we got to have that conversation and where he got to share his thing. And I don't know, like there's not a lot of him. There's stuff on here online. I mean, you know, I've been looking, but you know, I wish that he, you know, agreed to do more interviews and more conversations about his life. You know, I'm grateful for what we have, but I wish there was more because, you know, he always had great wisdom. He had great knowledge. He was always very funny. He had great stories to tell. He was one of the best storytellers out there.
Yeah,
you know. So what are your fond memories of Phil? Like, I mean, I know there's countless. We could be here all day, but
you know, there's a lot of funny stories. But probably one of my best memories is when Phil, Gab, and Stuart from DMC, we all went to the UK together in '94, which was the first time I played there, and they all came along, and we were there for 3 weeks. The lads on tour, you know, some of the funniest stories, you know, just shits and giggles between mates, you know, nothing good or nothing bad, just funny moments. Look, apart from how talented he is or was and what he knew and what he taught people, probably miss him more as a friend more than anything, because for him and I, and also with you, we had that 30-year span. It wasn't just about the DJ or you know, or knowing him through music. It was more than that. We hung out as mates. So that's the bit that's hard, you know.
Yeah.
That's missing.
Yeah, real camaraderie, and I saw that, and that was very, very apparent, because it was like you guys along with Gab and Ozzy. It felt like it was us against everyone else, and so you guys really had to lean on each other, and there was genuine the friendship was genuine, like you said.
It was that bond.
You know, you know, and you know, and I miss having conversations. I miss having laughs with him. I miss having lunches with him, and you know, going off and going to the sushi train, and you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, he was a beautiful man, and I think we're just we're lucky that we have his legacy, and we have so many memories to share of him.
We're lucky we got to spend more time with him than what a lot of other people actually did. So
you know,
we've got all that to look back on and to cherish it and remember. You know,
absolutely. And I think a lot of people probably didn't realize about Phil is that, you know, Phil was very gregarious. He was very an extroverted guy. He was very, but deep down, you know, he was a very sensitive soul. He was a very sweet, sensitive, caring soul. And a lot of people don't know or realize just how much he did behind the scenes. You know, he wasn't one to go on Facebook, for example, and say, well, look, you know, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he wanted to bring people up, but he never wanted to bring attention to himself. And even with the podcast, he just did. It's not that he didn't have anything to say. It's just, I think he just didn't like having the attention on him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so while he was a very brash guy, there was also a lot of humility. But what he did for kids, the amount of people he helped, even, you know, seeing him work at our store DJ, the time he would take to explain things to people where otherwise sometimes you want to kill people. But like the guy that asked him whether he could take an electric guitar and plug it into the AC into the 240.
I used to tell people, if you want to know something, go ask Phil. But let me tell you, make sure you've got at least half an hour, because that's how long it's going to take for him to answer your question. Because he's not going to just tell you; he's going to show you, explain it, teach you, and by the time you leave, you'll get or you'll walk out more confused than what you were when you walked in to begin with. And that was Phil, you know, and it wasn't because he was trying to look at me and show off. It's like he got that excited about showing something to someone where they could benefit from it. I mean, even James Abila would tell you a lot of, he's like the tech wizard with the equipment, and he'll praise Phil. You know, a lot of what he does now came from learning and watching from Phil. So yeah, a lot of people have got a lot to be grateful for what Phil did and what he shared with people. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned James Abila, because I remember when the first I heard about James Abila was through Phil.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, this bloke, James Abila, mad. Listen to this.
That's his words, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll never forget how excited he was that night when he and James played a versus set. And I think if people look online on YouTube, it's Phil K, James Abila, Blue Monday. They did a kind of a live Blue Monday mix. It's just off its head. It's just two super tech guys just going at it, just outdoing each other, just lifting the bar.
But more importantly, just having fun, you know.
Exactly. You know. Yeah. No, exactly. No, it's beautiful, man. No, it's good to sit and reminisce a little bit about Phil. So, buddy, we could talk for hours, and I want to get you back on the podcast because
I'd love to come back.
There's so many other things. So, just let us know what's happening right now with you. What's coming up in the weeks ahead? You know, moving into late March, early April. What things can we expect from you?
I played in Melbourne on the weekend, playing in Sydney playing in Melbourne this weekend as well. Age of Love Classics. I'm playing in Sydney next week. I'm streaming for a festival in Scotland the week after. I'm streaming for Burning Man Festival the week after.
Wow, cool.
I'm currently on Emirates Airlines this month as we speak as the in-flight mix, a 4-hour mix. I've got a new remix that Jamie and I have done, actually. Stel Vasilius from Greece has made a track as a tribute track to Phil K called Gone to Heaven, which Dave Seaman has signed to Salvador. And Jamie and I have remixed it, and that's the latest studio project, which you've actually heard and mastered yourself. You put your special touch on it. Can't thank you enough for that.
Yeah.
So that's what's coming up this month, and there's so much happening in the next coming months. I'm really getting back to my full-on A-game busy schedule, but busy, good busy, where I'm enjoying it and it's controlled and it's not getting too much. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. I'm loving it, and very happy to be doing what I do, and very happy to be alive, seriously. Very fortunate.
We're lucky to have you. Mate, where can people catch you online who want to check you out, see what you're up to? Go
to my Facebook page, Anthony Pappa, my official Facebook page, DJ Anthony Pappa. I'm very active on social media, on Instagram. Always happy to talk to people if I help.
Dude, when I was at your place the other day, remember that random call you got on Messenger? It was your birthday, remember?
Yeah.
And you didn't. And no,
I had no idea who it was.
True. I'm telling you that, guys, this is true. I was there. I'm verifying this. Yeah. And I was there with Anthony. He got a call on Messenger. He had no idea who it was. He said, okay. And it was some guy from England. It was 4 o'clock. It was a Sunday morning, 4 a.m. I've had their heads to ring to wish happy birthday. But you took the time you picked up the phone and you took the time and you spoke to the brother. Yeah.
I try to give back as much as I can, and I'm going to do more of that, like, more charity stuff. I want to work more with teaching my skills to young kids.
Yeah.
Not sure how or which way yet, but I've got to the point where, if I see someone that's showing potential, I want to help the right people that deserve it. It's good to pass something on.
Most definitely. Couldn't agree with
you. Which you do so well, Tony.
Oh, thanks, mate. Here. All right, buddy. Love you dearly, man. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks for having me, man. Let's do this again.
We will do it again.
We're just scraping the surface.
Oh, indeed we are. It's always great. It's always great to hang out and talk, and I always appreciate you and your time and your insights, mate. Lots of love to Louise and to Ruby.
Thank you, mate.
And thank you so much for your time, and appreciate you, mate. And we'll talk with you again very soon.
Love you, mate. Thank you.
All right, mate. And that is it. I'm ready to get out of here. Wonderful chat there with Anthony. Much appreciate him and his time. And very quickly, thank you so much again to my sponsor, Omega MMA Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right here, kids. Go check him out. 6 down street in Collingwood. It's a great club. George Soteropoulos, he's badass. He's a great teacher. He's a wonderful human being. And if you just want to come down just to get fit and, get your fitness level up or you want to become a badass in the cage, George is the man and Amiga is the place. So thank you so much to those wonderful people. Okay, I'm out of here. As always say, please be nice to each other, but more importantly, be nice to yourselves. I love you, crazy kids. And we'll catch you on the next podcast. All right.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.